Carol Amendola Dianca here, also known as the Italian nutritionist, and I'd like to have just a short little fireside chat with you today as I sit here in front of the fireplace about being a better cook. I've seen so much in the last several months as we have lived through a pandemic, and I have seen people who have never cooked at all be forced to cook. I was very interested when the pandemic first started about going to the grocery store and noticing that flour was rationed and yeast was rationed. And at first I thought, wow, it's wonderful. People are getting back to the kitchens and they're getting back to cooking again like we did a generation ago because we have no other options. And then I began to realize that, wow, no white flour, no yeast. Hopefully we're not making cookies and cakes to survive and self-medicating with food because we can't go out and we have to cook. So I'm sure over the past year that many of us have become great cooks, not by choice, but because of just the design of living. And I'm sure there are many of us that are tired of cooking and want to get out of the kitchen. But hopefully those two things will balance out. The pendulum will shift back to the middle, where we'll be cooking a little bit more in our own kitchens at home, which can be just a lovely experience for the entire family. So I have 3 things that can really help you to become a better cook. And the first one, if you need to be a better cook, maybe you've emerged from the pandemic as an extraordinary chef, I don't know. But the first thing I want to point out is not to be limited by recipes. And that might sound also counterintuitive from someone that spends a lot of time in her kitchen developing recipes. But I like to try to guide people with my counseling and in my past cooking classes to use a recipe as a guide. If a recipe is calling for eggplant and you don't like eggplant, leave it out. Just use it as a guide and make sure that the ingredients in the recipe are things that you do like or are willing to try. But if you absolutely don't like something, just leave it out. The recipe will probably turn out just as well, or substitute it. If you don't like eggplant, then maybe put in some chopped up sweet potato if you like sweet potato. But make sure that you're, giving yourself license to be able to be a little bit creative. Again, if you don't like kale, I'm kind of kaled out myself. There's a whole class of brassica vegetables that are very, very good for us in greens. And so substitute it. Substitute it with, Swiss chard or bok choy or something else that you may want to try and enjoy. And you'll be surprised. One of the little tricks that you can use in cooking and not following recipes one-on-one is adding a little lemon, fresh squeezed lemon at the end of a recipe. It's amazing what it will do. Or right before you're going to try a new salad or try some roasted vegetables, a little bit of lemon juice, fresh squeezed, puts a lot of extra flavor on your food preparation. The other thing that I wanted to mention, and I've seen this happen to people where their best efforts are thwarted, and that is that they don't have the ingredients at home. So there's nothing worse than being a little bit hungry and wanting to make something and you really don't have the basic ingredients to work with. So it's a very easy way to do it by just keeping some grains, keeping some rice, preferably short grain brown rice, keeping some nuts, keeping some seeds, and maybe some other grain, maybe farro or something of that sort. At home, these types of ingredients do keep well. Store them in canning jars and keep them in your shelf in your kitchen so you will have them available. And then keep some vegetables and fruits around. And if you have trouble keeping fresh fruits and vegetables and they go bad and then you just throw them out anyhow, keep them frozen. You can keep them and you can buy wonderful organically grown fruits and vegetables that have been frozen at their peak of freshness. And if you have them in the freezer and you can just scoop them out as needed, you can always make a meal For example, if you have some rice and you can cook up the rice, and then you have some vegetables, even if they're frozen, and you take them out and you saute them, and you can saute them frozen or roast them frozen, and toss the two together and put some flavored balsamic vinegar, some good balsamic vinegar, or even just a little smidgen of some oil and spices. You'll have a wonderful quick dinner. It'd be a lot easier than trying to go out and stand in line and wait somewhere for something that may not be as healthful for you. So I took a class in Rome, Italy a couple of years ago, and the chef said two things should be outlawed. He said a microwave oven and freezers. And I don't use a microwave oven, but I do think a freezer can be very helpful and very attractive in helping us to keep ingredients on hand and pull together meals very quickly. And then that was number 2. And so number 3 tip for becoming a better cook is, interestingly, accepting mistakes, because we all make them. I've had terrible mistakes in my test kitchen. I have thrown away food, unfortunately, that I felt very guilty about, but things just didn't turn out. So mistakes will happen, and just accept that and say, okay, I didn't care for that so much, or it didn't work. Hopefully it's not something that you were preparing for guests as a first time and it turned out to be a bomb. But just know, but I can guarantee you this: if you start with fresh foods, fresh fruits and vegetables, even if they've been frozen, and good unprocessed foods, and you start to experiment a little bit, it's always going to taste better than processed foods. So those are my 3 tips for becoming a better cook. And these are easy enough things to do. And by the way, I believe that everyone can cook. When I hear my clients say, I just can't cook, everyone is able to throw together something. So give it a try. If you like these tips, please give me a like, and please subscribe. There's a subscribe button, I think, on the screen or below, and I will continue to send some really good tips that I've learned over the years, personally and with working with others. Thanks so much.